What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what really moved in, go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did hit a new 52-week high today of 1892. So absolutely kick-ass day. It pulled back a little bit from the highs, but still close at 6% in the green. 1759 the low, 1892 the high. A massive amount of volume. So 147.51 million shares being traded. 67 is the average. But then again, I think this was kind of expected. So generally, there was a huge amount of in-the-money call options that needed to be covered by obviously market makers. And then in addition to that, today was the last day in Q2. So you're going to see a lot of institutions rebalancing. So of that 147 mil shares being traded, a lot were actual institutions through both the secondary market and dark pool. So a lot of big money straight out the gate, buying 1 million, 1 million, 13.8, a lot of big transactions, and even more so on the dark pool. So even once the market did close, 8.1, 5.4 million, 2.5, 8.7. So massive amount of money was rushing into SoFi. And I know I kind of brought this up in the past, but it's kind of comical now how it's just it's not a big deal. Seeing 8.8 million for one transaction on the dark pool is just like, okay, cool. What's next? 2.1, 8.7, 8.8. It's like, now it's just like, okay, cool. Big money's buying SoFi again. It's like, it's just interesting to see just the mentality of analyzing SoFi. But definitely, moral of the story is big money is FOMOing into SoFi. So as far as what caused all this FOMO, it is linked to just obviously the technicals on a larger scale. So a lot of the indexes and even SoFi all is pointing to have higher highs. You did also have Morgan Stanley that did come out mentioning that this rally is going to be continuing, and that's based on Fed cuts or expected Fed cuts. And they did mention that there's going to be roughly, or for what they're forecasting, 7 in 2026. I believe it was Besant that did mention this morning that they do anticipate 4 cuts starting October. I don't really understand where they're getting the October from, because it does show right now a 73.8% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut for the September meeting, but still Fed seem to be very focused on October. But nonetheless, a lot of big data coming out this week could change that and potentially even move it up to July, even though there's a very small amount, only a 21.2% likelihood of that occurring, but still, you never know. Nonetheless, though, market is getting and starting to price in all of these cuts. So I think that's kind of a good thing for a lot of stocks such as SoFi. And I think at the end of the day, one thing that has really caused SoFi to go up like 40%, 40 plus percent in the last month alone is just a lot of people looking at their growth. So people finally seeing it as a value play. And then over and above that, though, with the recent news about crypto, even though they didn't give a definitive date on that, that does kind of mean that SoFi might be getting a tech multiple similar to Robinhood. So it's definitely an interesting scenario playing out. I think the moral of the story again is the fact that Wall Street does really value innovation. And so SoFi, ever since they announced that crypto, has really gone up at a faster rate than at beginning of June. So regardless, good things are coming for SoFi. I know I did mention, I think it was 2 videos ago or tail end of last week, that if SoFi was to get roughly around that 1850, this is where I'll start selling covered calls. I kind of I'm going to take that back, because even though it did break above that today, I didn't sell any covered calls, because I do feel that given the circumstances, Powell's coming out tomorrow, we have jolt numbers, I think we actually might be moving higher. Canada and the States seem to have rectified already their kind of issues for tariffs and the negotiations. So I think big things honestly might be coming. And so, yeah, I think in reality, don't sell covered calls if you feel a lot higher highs are coming. But aside from that, though, one interesting thing that I noticed was shorts did increase today, 971,000 shares. And that wasn't actually the case with a lot of other heavily shorted stocks. Today, it felt as though that shorts were largely returning across the board, mitigating risk. But when it comes down to SoFi, I don't know who exactly, but someone was really hell-bent on trying to suppress SoFi, slow the momentum down a little bit. So they did increase just shy of course, 1 million shares, but 13.66% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 148.28 million shares overall are being shorted. As I mentioned in my pre-market video though, shorts are losing a ton of money. So right now, $2.53 billion in shorts are in for SoFi, and that is increased roughly 55% over the last 3 months. So shorts are losing a ton of money, and that's definitely a good thing, right? But it goes to show as well, whoever is shorting SoFi definitely does have some pretty deep pockets. But moving on, looking at the options, 131 million in calls, 23 million in puts. Majority though today were bearish in nature, so 37% of all the options were negative and clearly anticipating a little bit of a pullback. But you did have 26.7 million in premiums just between 950 and 955. That one is huge numbers, and that normally is what happens in one full entire day for SoFi. So based on this, we can kind of analyze this a little bit, and so ultimately majority was neutral, so 24 million in premiums. And the reason why it is neutral is because it wasn't really oriented towards the bid or the ask, but anyone dropping 24 million in premiums in one transaction, that's going to eat everything up, and that's why I think the system's coding it as neutral. But it was a July 11th 2025 call, 1650, and that's expiring in 11 days, and 232 for a premium that was done. So in my opinion, I actually, even though the system's coding it as neutral, I actually would consider that rather bullish, because this is probably just one of their multi-leg transactions. The rest of them are bearish. This one would be bullish, so they're kind of hedging their bets just in case of potential downside. But still, 24 million in premiums, that is absolutely insane. From the bulls, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $19 to $20 range for this week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 17. So given everything, there's still a lot more upside on the table. And as I mentioned, this is exactly why you do not want to sell covered calls, because if you start selling covered calls at, like, let's say 1850 and it goes to 22, yeah, you might lock in some profits, but you kind of left a lot on the table, unless again you feel like there is a pullback coming. But even from this, bears are anticipating kind of worst case scenario for it to be between that 17 to 1750. So again, even they feel like there's more upside. So let me know your thoughts on that. With it closing at 1821, it is right below this R2. So currently trading between this R2 and this R1. 1932 is going to be that next strong kind of resistance point. 1822 will be that key pivot to watch for tomorrow. And then 1754 is going to be that next strong support. Unless for whatever reason, Trump comes out and really starts crap with tariffs again, or potentially the data coming out tomorrow, jolt numbers, manufacturing, or even Powell speaking. If those are significantly negative, then you could see a little bit of a pullback possibly in the next couple of days to this R1. But given the FOMO that is in the market, this is the time that you do not want to be short or potentially start hedging with covered calls. This is just my opinion. You guys do whatever the hell you want. I've seen some people online saying that SoFi is just so overvalued. So yeah, if you feel a stock is overvalued, definitely buy a put, go short on it. But given this market right now gives me very much 2021 vibes. And for those of you that weren't investing at that stage, you could pretty much throw a dart at almost anything and essentially it was going up. SoFi is in a very unique circumstance. They're doing a lot of slowly but surely, they are innovating to their operations. They already do behind the scenes have solid fundamentals. So yeah, I think SoFi is a diamond in the rough. But aside from that, no new analyst ratings, anything like that. On the chart itself, it's above absolutely everything. It is considered overbought, as I mentioned. Technically, getting to that 1650/17 was going to put it there. So what that ultimately means, first sign of negative news, whether it be on a macro standpoint or specific to SoFi, you're going to see some consolidation, possibly to that 1750. or potentially, depending on how bad it is, you have 1644 being the next strong support. But nonetheless, I don't really anticipate that much negativity to come out this week. So let me know your general thoughts on SoFi. Did you buy? Were you locking in profits today? What's your kind of general thoughts on everything? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.